In the quiet hum of a late summer evening, when the cicadas sang their last chorus and the streetlights flickered to life, is a universal truth understood by every teenager. The world was yours. It was a time of burgeoning independence, of whispered secrets on front porches, of the exhilarating freedom that came with a bike ride after dark or a walk home from a friend's house. For many young people, especially in the vibrant, bustling neighborhoods of Washington, D.C., in the early 1970s, this freedom was a precious, hard-won thing. They were the future, full of dreams, laughter, and the boundless energy of youth. But then, a shadow began to fall. Not a sudden, dramatic eclipse, but a creeping, insidious darkness that started to steal that freedom, one young life at a time. It began subtly, a whisper of unease, before growing into a chilling roar that echoed through the city's streets and into the homes of its most vulnerable. It was April 27, 1971, when the first alarm truly sounded. Yvonne Perry, just 12 years old, vanished. She was last seen near her home in Southeast D.C., a bright, spirited girl with her whole life ahead of her. Days turned into agonizing weeks. Her family, her community, held on to hope, but a cold dread began to settle in. Then, on July 16th, her body was found, not in a hidden alley or a forgotten park, but by the side of a major thoroughfare, the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. It was a stark public declaration of a private horror. The city reeled, but the true terror had yet to fully reveal itself. Just a few weeks later, on August 1, 1971, another young girl, 16-year-old Brenda Faye Crockett, disappeared. Like Yvonne, she was last seen in Southeast D.C., and like Yvonne, her body was discovered days later, on August 10th, by the side of another freeway, the I-295. The pattern was emerging, horrifyingly clear. Two young black girls abducted, murdered, and left near the city's arteries, the very roads that symbolized connection and movement, now stained with unspeakable acts. The fear was palpable. Parents began to keep their children closer, locking doors that had always been open, walking their kids to school, even if it was just a block away. The carefree spirit of summer evaporated, replaced by a pervasive anxiety. Who was doing this? Why? And who would be next? The police were scrambling, but they had little to go on. No witnesses, no clear forensic evidence, just the chilling similarities in the victims and the disposal sites. The media, desperate to give a name to the nameless terror, began to call him the Freeway Phantom. It was a moniker that perfectly captured the elusive, ghost-like nature of the killer, a specter haunting the very roads that connected their lives. The Phantom wasn't done. On September 27, 1971, 18-year-old Nenemoshia Yates vanished. Her body was found on October 1 near the U.S. Route 50. The city was in a state of siege, not by an invading army, but by an invisible enemy. The collective breath of D.C. was held, waiting for the next shoe to drop. And it did. On November 15, 1971, 10-year-old Diane Williams disappeared. Her body was found on November 20, near the I-295, the same freeway where Brenda Faye Crockett had been found. The age of the victims was dropping, the innocence of the targets becoming more stark. A 10-year-old. What kind of monster preyed on children? The tension in the city was unbearable. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every stranger a potential killer. The police were under immense pressure, but the leads were cold, the killer seemingly vanishing into thin air after each horrific act. Then, the taunts began. On January 13, 1972, 17-year-old Marsha Lyles disappeared. Her body was found on January 27 near the U.S. Route 50. But this time, something new and utterly chilling emerged. A letter arrived at the Washington Post claiming responsibility for Marsha's murder. It was signed, the Freeway Phantom. The letter contained details only the killer would know, like the fact that Marsha had been wearing a ring. It was a direct, terrifying communication, a psychological assault on the city. The Phantom wasn't just killing, he was reveling in the terror he created, mocking the authorities, proving his untouchability. The letters continued. Another arrived after the disappearance of 18-year-old Brenda Woodard on March 27, 1972. Her body was found on April 2nd near the I-295. This letter, too, contained intimate details, proving its authenticity. The killer was not only claiming his victims, but dictating the narrative, weaving a web of fear and helplessness around the city. Police were now in a desperate race against time, not just to find the killer, but to understand the twisted mind behind these horrifying messages. The community was fractured by fear and suspicion. Why these girls? Why this pattern? Was it one person or a group? The racial element was not lost on anyone. All the victims were young black girls from similar neighborhoods. Was this a hate crime? Was it a serial killer targeting a specific demographic, believing they would be less protected, less mourned? The questions piled up, heavy and unanswered. The investigations continued tirelessly for years. Suspects were questioned, theories explored. There were whispers of connections to other unsolved cases, of a larger conspiracy, but nothing ever solidified. The leads went cold. The letters stopped. The killings ceased as abruptly as they began. And so, the case of the Freeway Phantom remains unsolved. 6 young lives, full of promise, extinguished by an unknown hand. Yvonne Perry, Brenda Faye Crockett, Nena Moshe Yates, Diane Williams, Marsha Lyons, Brenda Woodard. Their names are etched into the dark history of Washington, D.C., a constant reminder of a terror that stalked the streets and vanished without a trace. The families of these girls never found closure. The community never fully healed from the psychological scars. The Freeway Phantom became a chilling urban legend, a cautionary tale, a symbol of the vulnerability that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. Even decades later, the questions persist. Who was the Freeway Phantom? Was it a lone individual, or were there accomplices? Why did the killing stop? Did the killer die or simply move on? Could he still be out there, living a normal life, carrying the weight of his unspeakable acts? And what does it say about a society when such a horrific series of crimes can remain unsolved for so long, leaving so many questions hanging in the air? What do you think happened to the Freeway Phantom? Do you believe the killer acted alone, or was there a larger conspiracy at play? And what responsibility do we, as a society, have to ensure that cases like these, where young lives are tragically cut short, are never truly forgotten, and that the pursuit of justice, no matter how long it takes, never ceases?